So now that you've created your web hosting account, it's time to link your files up to your FTP server, which just means let's take your files and put them on the web. That way other people can view them. So I'm going to start in Dreamweaver this time around. And one of the things we did when we first came into Dreamweaver was we defined a site. We created this Lego site up here. So when you go to the drop-down menu, you've got Lego. And I told you that one of the reasons you want to sync this folder is not just so you can see just these files, but so that you can add a server. So you can see here that there's a define server button. Now, if you don't have a Lego site, you're not going to be able to do this next step. You're going to need to go back and figure out how to define that Lego site. So I'm going to hit define servers. You can also get there by going to manage sites and defining a server. There's a ton of other ways, but the goal is to get to the options for this. So when I click define servers, it's going to take me back into that site setup for Lego that we originally were in when we synced up our site. So if you think about it, when we were on site, we typed in the word Lego, which appears up here, and we synced it to our folder. The next tab is servers, and this is where we're going to add a server. We're going to need to make sure that you've got your Infinity Free page up. So I told you to click on that web hosting page, and this tells you your account details. So it tells you like what your username is. And if you can see here, we've got FTP details. We've got the host name, the port, and we've got a password. If you go back to Dreamweaver here under servers and we add a server, you're going to see that the options that it asks for is a name, an address, a username, a password, a port. Hey, look, those are all the same things that it asks for right here. A username, a password, a host name, and a port. So you've got all those things, and we're going to sync it so that they talk to each other. Now, this is an FTP server somewhere else in the world. And so what you're going to do is you're going to send your files to some other server, some other location, so people can access it. So in Dreamweaver, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to name this Infinity Free. Really doesn't matter what you name it. It's whatever you want to call it. It is an FTP server because we are connecting to do file transfer protocol. The FTP address, I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy the FTP host name. So ftpupload.net, copy that, go back to Dreamweaver, paste that into the address. It is in fact port 21, so I'm going to leave it at port 21. You're then going to need your username. Copy that, paste it in here. Yours is going to be different than mine, so please don't put mine. And your password. And I'm going to go ahead and pause right there. I'm going to show mine so I can copy it, paste it over. You do your own. All right, once you've got your password in there, you should be able to test it. When you test it, the hope is that you get a successful test. If you didn't get a successful test, check what you just did. So it's going to link out to the server and it should say success when it's done. So mine says Dreamweaver connected to your web server successfully. Perfect. All right, we've got one last thing we got to do, and this is important. Sometimes when you're uploading to a server, it's going to tell you to put your files in a certain location. That location is called a root directory. So for right now, what's happening is the computer's connecting to ftpupload.net. It's logging in and it's going to upload straight to the folder that it finds first. But in fact, Infinity Free wants us to be uploading to a different folder. So if I go ahead and I go to Infinity Free and I go to my file manager here, which allows me to manage my files on the web, I'm going to then want to check where this is going to load. Now, if your file manager isn't working because you're doing this so quickly that they're still setting up your account, you can go ahead and go into your control panel. And when you're in your control panel, you can get to your file manager there as well. So like my file manager button isn't orange yet. Some of yours might be. But once I'm in my control panel, there's also a file manager in my control panel. So inside my control panel, there's an online file manager. They're the same thing. They're just two ways to get to it. So I'm going to open up my online file manager. Your online file manager is going to allow you to view your files on the web server that Infinity Free is providing to you. And it's important to go into your file manager before you're uploading things because sometimes they have instructions that you need to follow so that you put your files in the right location. So you can see once my file manager loads here, it says, do not upload files here. They don't want you to upload files directly to here. Instead, what they want you to do is they want you to go into what's called htdocs. It's just a folder that they've created, and that's their root directory. When I go into htdocs and it loads, you'll see it says files for your website should be uploaded here. And by default, there's an index2.html file. So we're going to upload into this folder, which means our root directory is htdocs. So I'm going to have to specify that inside of Dreamweaver. Inside of Dreamweaver under root directory, I want to tell it to go into the folder htdocs. To go into a folder, we put a slash first, and then we put htdocs, and then I can test it at that point. When you test it, it should be able to successfully connect, and your web URL at the bottom should actually change to have htdocs at the end, and that's what you want. You want the computer to go to ftpupload.net, then inside the htdocs folder, then upload our files. So we're going to hit save, and we're going to see that our Infinity Free server pops up here underneath our site setup, and hit save. When it does that, it's going to ask you to create a cache and recreate it, and that's fine. So it's going to recreate that real quick if it needs to. And now you're ready to connect and upload your files.